know where there's some. Right here in the hall clerk.
No, Molly, not in there. I have enough.
Hello and welcome back to the final video on the GE 107 on repairing a radio with only a soldering iron and some hand tools. Next up, and the last thing I'm going to talk about, is cleaning. You'll notice a shiny spot right there. I tried numerous polishes, amongst them the semichrome polish, which has a great reputation, and it's quite expensive, from Germany, I think. But what did that, and I'm most pleased with, is plain old turtle wax chrome polish and rust remover. You'll run across chassis that have deep rust pits in them, and those are, I mean, if you're a serious restorer, I guess I would put it. What some people do is take everything off the top, disassemble the radio in essence. Some will do like a sandblasting on it. Others will scrub it down with good solvents and then paint it. But the deep rust is really hard. It's just not going to come out very easily. But I'm happy. This chassis is again in remarkably good condition, and I'm really happy that chrome polish is going to be my tool of choice here. It won't take very long. So what I'm going to do is take the tubes out. Oh, and one thing about tubes: if you get a cleaning bug and you start to think you might want to clean tubes, be careful. There's usually a coating of dirt and grime on the very top, sometimes completely covering the tube. And if you want to clean this, that's okay, but only do it with water. And don't touch this little, it's like a stop sign right here with numbers. I don't know if you can see that. That's the tube identifier right there. And it's put on with water-soluble ink, and as soon as you rub a wet cloth across there, it's gone forever. So you want to preserve that. It's nice to preserve the company name of who made the tube too. This one is gone already. Oh, it's right here on the base. It's not gone at all. So plain water and a cloth up here, and around here, just don't touch this area right here. Leave that alone. Don't clean it. The water will make it sparkle. You'll be very happy with that, but don't do anything else. The glass tubes all have to be handled that way. There's another, it's a 50L6. And again, it has grime on the top and some around the bottom and sides, but a nice wipe down with just a damp cloth will take care of that, and don't touch the number part. So I'm going to take the tubes out, and if you lose track of where they go, remember this radio has it on the bottom. If you don't have a map, make note, just a pencil and paper, write down what you pulled out of where so that it goes back in the right place. Alright, I'll get started. I'll bring you back when I'm done. So here we are. I've cleaned the chassis, including the sides, wiped this down with water, and generally you don't want to use anything on painted surfaces. You don't want to use anything that's highly corrosive. Start with water. If water won't do it for you, you can move on, but generally water does a fine job of cleaning things up. I cleaned the tubes, and I wanted to say one more thing about glass tubes in particular. If you want to pull this tube and you want to clean it, don't grab it by the glass envelope and pull up. That glass envelope because there's an old bead of glue under there, it will easily pull away from the base. You should always grab the base and wiggle the tube out. Then you can clean it and put it back in the same way. So don't pull on glass tubes, glass envelopes. The metal tubes, these guys are very durable. You can pull on the sides of those all you want. So that's kind of it for the chassis. I'm going to set this aside and grab the cabinet. All right, here's our cabinet. Pretty bad. It's had a lot of liquids dropped on it over time. What I normally like to do is take the dials out and the speaker out and wash the whole thing in the sink with some mild soap. I'm not going to do that this time because the kinds of retaining clips that they used to hold this the dial is just a piece of plastic. Very old, very fragile plastic. So I'm going to wipe that with a dry cloth, and again, not use water on them, just a dry cloth, and get the dust off the back. But that's going to be about the best we can do. I'm afraid to remove these clips because that might break the plastic as well, and they're tough to replace. Tough to replace. The speaker is in good shape. I don't think I need to replace it either. So what I'm going to do is wipe it out with a damp cloth and get all the dust off of it. And then I want to address the question of, is this a Bakelite case, like it looks to me like it is down here? It's just beautiful. Or a plastic case. And the internet tells me there's a way to find out. So I'll do that. Let me grab what I need first. All right, the experts on the internet tell me there are two ways to find out whether it's plastic or Bakelite. And I've seen this radio talked about in both. Some people argue vehemently that it's plastic, and it's not beyond possibility that there were some plastic and Bakelite versions made, I suppose. But apparently the test, there are two tests. One is with semi-chrome polish. The older test, and less liked these days apparently, is with old-fashioned original formula 409 cleaner. And what they say to do is find an undisturbed surface, which is what this is. Put some semi-chrome on the paper, or paper in my case. I don't have white cloth, otherwise I would use one. The semi-chrome is pink. Quite a rosy pink. And what they say is if you rub this in a polishing fashion on Bakelite, it will turn yellowish. So let's see what happens here. And I guess it did. It looks more orange to me than yellow. But it's not pink anymore, that's for sure. Let me get my excess off. Polished up pretty nicely in there. Let's try that same experiment again over here with the Formula 409 and see if we get different results. My question is that just dirt, or is it yellowish because it's Bakelite? I don't know. Here's some 409 and same paper towel, different corner. Rub, 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 rub. And I call that sort of yellow but inconclusive. I wouldn't say that's yellow by any means. The Simichrome, let's do the Simichrome where I just did the 409. See if that tells us anything more. No mixing methods here, but it's all fun and games. Okay, there's our pink Simichrome. This is a clean spot because we just cleaned it with 409. Now I'll rub the Simichrome in that same spot. And it is, yeah, it turned color again. So I think based on that, that was a clean spot. You know, the question for me was, in the earlier test, am I just picking up dirt? But that was clean with Formula 409, and we get the same effect. So I think, based on what I saw on a couple of YouTube channels, this is Bakelite, which is very cool. It's nice to have a Bakelite case. I have never had one before. All right. As to how to polish this up and return it to some of its former glory, apparently the best advice is to use either, again, go over the whole thing with Simichrome polish, which is, in my book, pretty darned expensive. Or to go over the whole thing with Brasso. Brasso apparently works wonders in restoring the outsides of Bakelite. So what I will proceed to do is clean this with some mild soap and a cloth inside and out, and then I'll start to see how it looks when it's buffed out on the inside first, probably the same surface with Brasso. We can get a sense of how it looks. So I'll bring you back when I've done that. Okay, I've just finished doing cleaning and then polishing with Brasso the inside of the top. Gosh, it looks good, I think. Look at that. That's pretty. I hope the outside the outside has, of course, received a lot more wear, but that's nice. I'll have to get Brasso out of the corners and so on, but I think Brasso is going to work for us. So I'll continue on with the inside and update you as we go. And here's the result. It's not brilliantly shiny. It still feels like it has a bit of a pebbled surface on there. I don't know if that's from age or potentially I could have sanded that out with some fine grit. Wet paper. But it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good, I think. It came out all right. Sides are finished. Sides finished. Inside's cleaned out. Overall, it looks pretty good, I think. What I used was, I cleaned it all over with a paper towel and Formula 409, which has been around 100 years, and which we also used for our Bakelite test with mixed or no results, can't tell which. Then I went over it with Brasso to give it some polish, to take the, you might recall there were a whole bunch of drip marks, water marks or something on the top, and the Brasso took that out nicely, helped clean up the whole thing. And then the capper was to finish it off with a nice coat of the longtime sponsors of the Fibber McGee and Molly show, Johnson's Paste Wax, which I always have a can around. And just a light coat of Johnson's paste wax to put over the top and protect it a bit from whatever future damage it may receive. But I think it looks okay. It turned out all right. As I said, I gently cleaned the outside of this, and the inside I didn't get wet. I just used a soft dry cloth to clean that up. As I was cleaning, I noticed there are a couple of scores across here, like something has scratched it. But they don't show much. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the way the cabinet turned out. So next I will remount the chassis that we have working. The chassis we've repaired with only a soldering iron and some parts, and put it all back together. By the way, if you don't know anything about Fibber McGee and Molly, Fibber McGee and Molly was a radio show. It started in an American radio show, started in 1935. It starred Jim Jordan and Marion Jordan as Fibber McGee and Molly. And it was one of my favorite radio shows when I was a kid. Yeah, today even. We play their closing theme song on the closing theme song of this YouTube channel. But they were hilarious. The premise was that Fibber was a teller of tall tales. They lived in a little community called Wistful Vista, or they lived on Wistful Vista Drive. I don't remember the name of the community. Anyway, they were friends with the mayor and the town doctor and a guy, as I recall, the character was called the old geezer or something like that. Anyway, a long cast of characters for a radio show that lasted longer than almost any other. It had an amazing run. So yeah, you can listen to episodes of Fibber McGee and Molly on archive.org if you like. They're all loaded up there. Let me get a towel. So if you want to hear some of Fibber McGee and Molly, they are available. All right, we'll remount this chassis. And as I said, Johnson's Paste Wax was a sponsor of theirs for years and years and years. Maybe the whole run, I don't know for sure. The guy who, in those days, the advertisements, the commercials were often made a part of the show, and Fibber McGee and Molly did that all the time. The pitchman for Johnson's Paste Wax in those years was a guy named Harlow Wilcox, who was a famous radio announcer in those days. But he had a great time on Fibber McGee and Molly. Fibber called him Waxy or something like that. All right, this pretty chassis going back in. 3 screws hold it from the bottom. One more here. Get that back in there. Hook up the speaker There are 2 speaker wires. Can't see to get that one on. Oh. There. And then this one. And we're ready for the back and the antenna. Which happens to be right here. So the green wire goes there, or blue, depending on what you see when you look at it. The yellow wire goes there. We have a couple of fittings. Oh wait, first we have these hokey, in my view, hokey wood blocks we have to put in. And the wood blocks act as standoffs to keep the back standing off from the chassis itself. We'll put those back in. And they're just a piece of, what is that, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch with a hole drilled through to accept the screw. That's one side. Here's the other. And the Fibber character, I remember one episode had entered a contest to tell a whopper, to tell whoever could tell the best lie. And Fibber spent the entire episode. Fibber, by the way, was one of the greatest liars on the planet, in a kind of charming, well-meaning sort of way. But he spent the entire episode scratching his head trying to come up with a lie. Said he can't think of one because he's an honest man. But he had his nickname Fibber for a good reason. He just couldn't help himself. Okay, round front. We have a filter washer for each of these. And our original knobs, which I cleaned up a bit, but they're still, I might work on these some more. They didn't clean up very well. But I'll put them on right now, and we can finish the video. Then I'll take them off and clean them up some more. Press on, and press on. There it is. And there's our GE 107. Looking spiffy, clean, and repaired, and good for another 50, 60 years, you think? Maybe? We'll plug it in, turn it on. Again, this model does not have a dial light, so nothing will light up here. We'll see if we screwed anything up in the meantime. Can't imagine it. And we'll wait for the tubes to...
Every single week where you can go.
There we go.
And regardless of the result of the game.
iHeart, Google, Spotify, and iTunes has all 3 hours, even though they're all broken up, which is really...
Absolutely shameless human being.
Like I said, I don't like AM around this area. AM has nothing but talk. You can occasionally get a Latin music station, which I like, but
criticizing conservatives in the speech in Philadelphia is the nadir of the crossing of the Rubicon.
Dedicated to turn things around.
Moved. Everybody's pouring some money in. It's moved 2.5.
Anyway, there we go. It works. It's all cleaned up. It's fixed. It's good for a long time to come again. Thanks for joining me on this, as David Tipton says, radio adventure. But that's his bit. But thanks for joining me on this. This has been as I said at the first one, I'm not sure I really wanted to make this video because I'm not sure we could pull it off, and that is repairing a radio of this vintage. This is 74 years old. Repairing a radio of this vintage only using a soldering iron, a couple of hand tools, some solder, not that, solder, and some household cleaning stuff that we had lying around. Oh, and one other thing, and in my view it can't be done without this, our homemade dim bulb tester. But there it is, it's done. Thanks for coming along. Take care. I'll see you next time on the next project.